Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and today we're looking at Portal Stories Meld. This is a community mod for Portal 2, which came out as of this recording 9 years ago. It's a free community mod, so typically I don't cover mods. Typically I don't cover free games because being a video game critic is in part giving buying advice, and there's very little buying advice that needs to be given for something that's free. Now, I do think you actually have to own Portal 2 on Steam to play the mod, but it doesn't seem like it has to be installed. There is about 5 mods, community mods that were made for Portal 2. One is in the works, or actually 2 are in the works, but the one of note is Portal Reloaded, which is going to add a time mechanic, which might be interesting. And if anything, this really is just an admission by me that I want to play Portal some more without just playing Portal 1 and Portal 2 for the 4th or 5th time in the past decade. And I'd like to have some new content. And certainly we're not seeing much of that very fast from Valve. They did make Half-Life Alyx, but that's a VR-only game. It's not even in the Valve bundle for owning all of the Valve content, and they might be secretly thinking about making a Half-Life 3, but I think they are still very much, Valve is painted in this corner where if they made a Portal 3, they would peeve off a lot of people who were expecting Portal Half-Life 3 to get made first. But frankly, they probably should just do that. They should make a Left 4 Dead 3, they should make a Portal 3, and they should just say, well, we've got 2 games that have a 3 in the number and we're holding off, or we're never making a Half-Life 3. But let's see, I don't think there's anything else that we need to say about that, because that's really a Valve issue and has very little to do with the community, who in the meantime can on occasion make something to keep us at least a little bit occupied. It is also possible that had there been a mod every single year that was of note and really good quality around Portal 2 over the course of the last 9 years, that I would have been burnt out on Portal 2 as a concept. A lot of the settings here were not set to my liking, so I turned on subtitles. The video was at a 4:3, like 640 by 480 resolution by default. Having an RTX 2080 video card makes me very, very confident that this old game can handle the absolute maximum visual settings. And so yeah, I'm also playing with an Xbox One controller, and that's probably all we need to know. I would also say story mode is the only reason I would cover this mod, or any mod. It is very possible that this is going to be poorly voice acted or poorly written, but had this just been a mod that gave me more puzzles, I probably would never get that desperate to want to go back and play it. So that we can see there are 5 chapters. This is a different story. It's not just retelling or adding on directly to the events of Portal 2. For all we know, this could take place years before or after the events of Portal 2. Let's hop in and see. Be interesting to see how fast it takes to load. Well, nope. That still feels like that took longer than I would have thought it would have. Sound effects so far so good. The soundtrack is free here. Chapter 1, 1952. Now you start Portal Half-Life 3 on a train.
Greetings, astronaut, war hero, or Olympian. My name's Cave Johnson, and boy, do I have something to show you.
So there's actual people.
You're the best the world has to offer.
We haven't seen that.
Mind you. So take that as one of the biggest compliments you'll ever get in your life, even if you don't know who I am. In the beginning, I started a shower curtain company, making asbestos-laden shower curtains for the military. But I kept dreaming bigger and better. And you know what? That
Interesting way to start.
Lots of doing.
It's really not a good way to start a game, though.
You're riding into the little Michigan town of... wait. Where are we again?
Amphetamines. Aperture Science Innovations.
So,
Aperture
this town
Leisure.
doesn't have a name yet, as we're the ones who built it, but that doesn't matter. Point is, you're
Interesting
riding
the people
now,
are
and you'll soon
moving.
be Aperture Science Innovators.
Giant
We're
cave
still getting
system.
some of this stuff together, but there's a lot of science we can do in the meantime. You've been selected from a large group of candidates for a special test in our temporary testing areas. When the train arrives at the station, head into the town and into the Aperture building. Don't worry, you'll know where it is. You'll get some more pre-recorded messages once you're there.
It's pretty easy to miss some visuals here by
Put on some nice music for you.
wandering back and forth. So one of the things you can take from this idea is that was mostly dialogue that was spoken in Portal 2, but that feels like they had a different voice actor play Cave Johnson because they probably couldn't hire the same actor. We see the guns
You're now arriving at
shooting,
Aperture
so
Central Station. Wait. Chris, get over here. How do you spell station? Okay, think about that for a second. Okay. Does station have an extra O before the I? Alright, listen to me. Pack your things. Because you're fired! Get out of my office. Out. Get out. Out of my office. I can't re-record this.
So yeah, you're seeing a lot more like an actual city here, which frankly it's a kind of interesting idea because then that does bring it back to being closer to a Half-Life game. I've never actually played any of the Half-Life games, but I've seen them played well enough to know that you are often around the city, often around other people, instead of isolated in pure white rooms like you see in the Portal games. This feels very much almost like Bioshock 1 in the sense that you started the beginning of that game in a bathysphere going to Rapture, although the difference there is we didn't see a giant city, even though that's what it is. Wow, that's a little glitchy.
Now, as I said before, there's a lot we're still working on. Just watch your step on the way out, and as a reminder, Aperture Science Innovators is not responsible for any injury you sustain, up to and including death by exposure to cosmic ray spallation. Don't worry, though. We haven't had an accident like that in 3 days. Sorry. Make that 3 minutes.
So yeah, this does feel a little bit more Bioshocky. And colas. At the moment, all you can do is jump. And locks on the door, which we can't open. We have an out of service one. Toilet. Were these not toilets? Guess they weren't. Interesting co-gendered toilets in what seems like a time in the past, since it's 1952, but obviously a different kind of world in general, because there is technology that clearly just does not exist. Interesting. And like all other, well, you can crouch down too. All other Half-Life universe games, the main protagonist does not seem to speak. Maybe you're running into kind of a repeated problem with all the Portal games, in which there's a slow wind-up and some like tutorialization.
Here at Aperture Science Innovators, we love to give
I
back to
just
the
got an
community.
achievement.
So, instead of just giving back, we made our own community, entirely made out of Aperture Science malleable concrete, on top of the salt mines. And that's exactly why you shouldn't touch the walls or stomp your feet either. Last thing we need is to touch up a dent in the wall because someone was too hands-on.
So that's not really the sky, that's not really the moon, and yet there are birds running around. And see, that definitely feels like something you wouldn't have been expecting. One of these buttons zooms in. Which button was that? It's the right bump. Here we can have a fairly dark scene of a playground. Just really, really dark. And I imagine this isn't supposed to be like a game where we're gonna do a lot of physics, bunny hopping and things like that. But we can jump over the fences. Yeah, this is different. Does it matter that it's different? I'm not sure yet. What would be the point of having a small community and then having cars? Is this city really that big? It doesn't seem like it would be that big. I don't know how you could use these assets in particular to work towards making either Half-Life 3 or a prequel to Half-Life 1 or anything in the Portal universe that Valve would want to do. I just don't believe Valve would want Half-Life 3 to take place in a environment that is of this quality of polygons. When you compare this to like Half-Life Alyx, that's almost certainly obvious that Half-Life Alyx is way more visual, way more polished. Nice little statue. You could use that, certainly. And maybe you could reskin a lot of these buildings and reuse them. Interesting. Seems like at some point we would almost certainly get inside that building. To go up higher. And you've got crickets playing. Over here we've got a glowing red light, which seems like it's just intentionally there to highlight. You've got transformers. This is definitely a case where Half-Life Reloaded, which is supposed to come out in 2021, and I'm playing this in 2020, probably will be at least a generation or two in pushing its polygon count and making it a more detailed, more textured experience. Unfortunately, that is the catch-22 you will always run into with any game, is that you can constantly tweak the graphics, you can constantly try and improve the visuals, rewrite the story, add new gameplay elements, add new side missions, add new content, add more story. You can just tinker forever. And since Valve does effectively have the closest thing that one could have to infinite money, that is exactly what they have been doing, is just tinkering forever and never really running into a product that they cared to actually sell. It wasn't until a heavy investment in VR that they actually felt the need to put out Half-Life Alyx.
I told you it was easy to find.
And
you found it faster than any test subjects on record. That's not good. Anyway, just head through the door on the right to the elevator. You'll know where to go.
Yep. And there kind of is a just in general infrastructure problem with Valve, as it were, that it seems like the figurehead, Gabe Newell, is in charge. And they certainly make it seem like he's in charge. I cannot read that at all. If you're supposed to be able to zoom in and read that. But in actuality, it's kind of more of a deadlock between several shareholders. And I'm not sure that any of the shareholders really cared to see products launched. They just, much like movie producers, want to either have their fingers in the pies of anything successful or cancel and kill anything that even begins to look unsuccessful. On top of which, the lower infrastructure of Valve has employees who are under the control of questionably everybody and nobody all at the same time, because it pretends as a company like they are here's Caroline, which is personality that gets implanted into the brain of GLaDOS. Yeah, you definitely should have played the Half-Life 2 before Portal 2 before playing this game. But yeah, employees often have to gain the favor of these small fiefdoms, as it were. It's very feudalistic. In fact, that's a great example, analogy. They have to get the little lords of each little fiefdom to approve and embrace an idea of a project, and they have to convince all of their all of the people who might work on that project that they want to work on that project, and that you have to keep those people, and you have to keep those people working on this project because they're somewhat free, or fairly free, to leave the project at any time. Where it would be, for as bad as most, interesting, that actually did activate. For as bad as it feels a lot to work in a regular job where somebody just tells you what to do and you either do it or you get fired, that is probably still the best system that anybody knows at the moment to actually get anything done. Interesting. I wonder if we're going to actually get some audio out of those at some point. Please sign in with the receptionist before proceeding to the lounge. So they'd want you to sign in either here, and you can see that there's a decent number of people who are not here, not around. But it is weird that we saw the gun turrets because they are way too early in the timeline by my thinking. And the gun turrets, even if there were going to be gun turrets in this game, then there should have been, they should have looked very different. A lot of this artwork and stuff was just in Portal 2. And in fact, this whole environment is very different though. Like the carpet's different. We didn't see any cola machines. I don't think we saw any signs like that. This painting may have been at the beginning of Portal 2 where you had to stare at a painting, or maybe not. This door is locked. Lots of this. Be interesting if you play this whole game and you never get a portal gun, and you do completely different kinds of tests.
Flight of stairs that spiraled down through the old salt mines down here. Give the test subjects a great view of the place. But no, the zoning boards on my bean counters said that's why they invented elevators. So, when someone in a wheelchair threatened to sue, my former boys chickened out of me and built this elevator to go to our temporary offices. I'm still working on those stairs, and those guys are working on getting new jobs. Seriously though, the stairs aren't ready, so get on that stupid elevator.
So, yeah. We might wander through this whole area a couple different times and unlock things. Lots of little paintings. Lots of doors. Hallway was longer than the dialogue, really. Yeah, that seems like a reasonable old-fashioned elevator. Although it still does... Why did that bump me up? Because I stood on the bench. That's a little shocking. That did that, but okay. Like, it would be weird if you didn't have a portal gun of some sort. It'd be fine if you had an old-fashioned portal gun. I just got an achievement for trying every single door, apparently. Is that typewriter up there? Apparently. Yep. The other thing certainly to mention here is that Valve really wanted the Source engine to turn into something closer to the Unreal Engine or the Crysis engine, and it unfortunately just did not catch on. I don't think in particular it has so much to do with the licensing terms of using the Source engine. It very well may have something to do with the difficulty of learning how to use the Source engine, even though the Source engine might arguably be better with physics than something like the Unreal Engine. But at the end of the day, I think it mostly had to do with just support and the direction people went. Valve, already owning Steam, already having made the Half-Life series, was probably not the company that you wanted to get your engine from. Of course, that led to the weird scenario where people used the Unreal Engine, and then Epic Games, the creator of the Unreal Engine, managed to get a surprise hit in the form of Fortnite, and so now you have the Epic Games running a Epic Store as a competitor to Steam, and they have one of the most successful games in recent history, Fortnite, and they have the most successful, or one of the most successful engines in comparison to also Unreal Engine, which Unreal's still my choice, I would say. That was a very obvious load. Unreal's better for like mobile portability and cell phone games.
The first thing they said was, "No, there's too much space. You can't suspend something over nothing and pray that a test can happen in thin air." Well, thanks to some use of the old calculator between the ears and a generous helping of the "you're fired" stamp, I came up with a final solution to that. If you can't anchor something in thin air, why bother trying to make it in the air in the first place? I came up with this.
So we're going to... There's apparently a level 0 and a level -1.
The Aperture Science Innovators Suspended Testing Sphere. Each sphere is suspended in the air, anchored to the walls by concrete and steel lattice rebar. They seem like they float in the air, but in fact, they don't. Plus, we can keep building above them, onward and upward. This salt mine here can take at least 10 of these bad boys per shaft. 9 shafts, 90 tests. We can test whatever we want to and beat that other company into the ground.
That being Black Mesa.
Those guys can kiss my... Anyway, the bean counters cried like babies when they saw the cost of these things, but they wet their pants when I threw them out the door. I pay the bills, I make the decisions around here, and I hire and fire as I please. Now, the first of these spheres won't be ready for a few more months, so you'll be participating in one of our smaller tests, the Aperture Science Innovators Short-Term Relaxation Vault.
So, I imagine what will happen is we'll end up being put in the relaxation vault and being kept in like a suspended animation. It's fairly funny that Cave Johnson would somehow become rich enough to do this when it would be unlikely anything short of a major government could build something like these. And of course it is utterly ridiculous to need to build any of this at all. Like when you think about how...
This test should be real easy for you though. Just get inside one of the Aperture Science Innovators Short-Term Relaxation Vaults and lie in a bed. You'll feel yourself fall asleep quickly. Don't worry though, our science boys will get you out shortly. You'll only be out for a few minutes, an hour at most if something goes wrong. Don't worry, we've got everything under control. You'll be making science, and you won't have to do a thing. Who's the winner here? You are.
Like... Yeah, it's just kind of very, very ridiculous, which stretches credibility. And you might run into a problem there. But in all fairness, I don't think the Half-Life story itself is best absorbed if you take it as a serious, reasonable story. I think the Half-Life universe comes with a caveat that this is going to be a ridiculous exaggeration of a world. We are here
for a quick, deep sleep, and then you're done. That's why we brought you here at night. You're most likely a walking zombie. That'll give us the best results. But just remember, don't sleep too long. This isn't a bed and breakfast. And if you decide to stay tonight, I'm charging you rent for the next year. We'll have a bed ready for you. Just follow the testing area signs and go to bed.
Danger.
Don't mind the turrets. They're firing blanks. At least that's what Crazy Harry told me. Had 6 signs boys disappear because of him.
This is danger. Like some kind of worms. And then we've got a car with the lights on. Yeah, when you think about the like Large Hadron Collider that mostly was built just in the ground around other in a decent place, they didn't have to put it in a cave. There is a sort of telescope laboratory out there that that tries to get neutrinos, and there's a lot of isolation there, and there's some gyroscopes, not gyroscopes, what am I thinking? Why not? I don't know. Am I gonna die? Is there a way to save your game? Yeah, let's make a new save slot. There's a couple other labs. Oh, just immediately died. But it reset you, and that did give me an achievement. Is that what that sign is saying though? Is don't fall in the water? Yeah, that doesn't look like water to me. Interesting idea, certainly, though, to set water as a barrier. Here we can see mushrooms. I don't have a crosshair, so if I really was supposed to click on specific things, I don't think that would work. Yep. Like, most things at most have to be buried in the ground for isolation reasons. Just a little bit. They don't have to be in giant salt mines. And I doubt structurally you could have a giant salt mine as big as being depicted in this game in Portal 2 without it potentially being just a caved in Grand Canyon. Instead, because there is theoretically a maximum strength one could have, a cave size a cave could be, I would assume. And every cave I've ever heard about or seen has been, generally speaking, fairly small and extremely unstable. Here we have a white platform. Wear your respirator. Warning. Here you have a point where some extrusion gel might get shot out. Here we have some food facts. Number 13. Seems like there is definitely some just pre-bought assets. Not that I'm gonna complain about a free game mod having pre-bought assets or free assets. I can definitely hear a clock ticking. Toilet's out of service again. All the Coke machines being out of service. Here we have a whole bunch of typewriters, as in like typewriter pool. But that's a very old-fashioned idea in which the men in offices often could not type, and so they would hire entire secretary pools to just type. Interesting. There might be some hints on the back of these. We may actually interact with the vending machines more than I think we will. Let's see. Some barriers you can't jump over. Some things you can. It is a little weird though that we've gone 30 minutes and we haven't gotten to an actual puzzle. You would think a small tutorial element would make sense. See, and if this is 1952 and they got this Best New Science Company in 1947, then you kind of know that his shower curtain business mostly funded his success. Well, I would have assumed that the shower curtain business only minorly funded the first scientific discovery, which then funded a lot more. It would be funny to find out that actually it is just like the government funding him secretly, or even the Russians. It's also kind of ridiculous that his name is Cave Johnson, and yet it has nothing to do with the fact that he bought a cave, unless he changed his name. Right. And we're seeing just a lot of stuff, but not a lot of stuff that really matters. And a lot of people missing. The game oddly starts in a weird way where it shows you people and then you don't see people. Which, that's odd. Like, they could say this is night all they want, but then why are all the lights on? Like, why is there paper all over the place? Why is nothing put up and clean? And there you can fall, even though you can't see your feet and you don't have any anti-fall boots. Whereas in the Half-Life universes, it was assumed that anybody
those turrets won't kill you.
who
Safety on
fell
their guns is on. Had some lamp boys
greatly
shut them
would
down.
die.
Crazy Harry lied to me. We can play a record. Apparently no achievement for doing that. So the turrets are different. Okay, good to know. They also seem to be probably not movable. Wonder if there's an achievement for potentially listening to the entire song. That'd be asking a lot. So yeah, I think we're gonna get frozen, which is fine, really, because you don't really want to play with a portal gun from this time, because then you'd be severely limited to just the extrusion gels that were forgotten technology and the portal abilities from the first game. Then you're good to go. Step into the chamber and get into the bed. Our lab boys will take care of the rest.
And here we can press X to sleep. And I feel like there's probably an achievement for that. Like, we got none of these prompts before. Well, apparently no achievement for not sleeping. So, X. And then you have like a fully rendered cutscene, which you do have something on your legs, and your legs look to be fairly bad, and your fingernails are painted red, which makes it definitely feel like you're playing as a female, which no indication of that up until this point, so that's a bit of a shocker. It feels like this is a pre-rendered cutscene just to be an advertisement for the mod. Wouldn't be a bad idea to have other female characters besides Chell. I wouldn't even be upset if this turned out to be like the mother of Chell. Here we can hear some alarms going off and see some flashing red. But whatever event occurred, whether it was aliens attacking or something else,
Is this thing on? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Oh, right, you can't answer.
That's the first chanter.
So sorry, astronaut. was a slight problem with the test. Don't worry though, we got you out okay. Nothing's different, nothing's changed. Just head out of the chamber, I'll tell you a bit more out there.
So, very much like the starting of the Portal 2. A lot of damage here, a lot of wear and tear. Very possibly that isn't Cave Johnson who's talking to us. But whatever the event was that went wrong, it had to be something before GLaDOS, which could be pretty much anything. And this could just be a trick. Certainly GLaDOS is playing for fun in the future.
Don't worry about the height. Had a few of my scientists make what's called long fall Aperture Science Innovators long fall boots. That was easier to think of than I thought.
So I feel like this is probably Crazy Ed or somebody else. Let's see if we fall down this way and get on this ledge. That does nothing. Okay. So we were already wearing the long fall boots though, so it would have made more logical sense for the game to say, hey, put on these boots at the beginning of the game, or talk about your outfit, or have you be able to look down. Yeah, worst case scenario, it could be that the AIs that are controlling these guns, which I assume they're AIs at the moment and not just programs.
Pick that yellow device up. Don't worry, it's not hazardous. I've had the scientists leave you a new device to help you. Yeah, that's right. A new test. Congratulations.
See, it's trying to shoot you.
Now. Double the experiment for you.
This feels like this is the same place, that you didn't actually move anywhere, but there's definitely a lot of growth now. So yeah, we're gonna get a early generation portal gun. That's about it. There's a potato. And it was the mutated potato that grew and overtook the facility made by Chell, potentially. At least I think that's the secret backstory. Here we have another cutscene. There's not this many cutscenes in the regular game. What would be funny is if this turned out to just be a gravity gun.
You'll need that new test to move around. Don't worry though, we built the building like this. Don't worry about that. It's just a new drilling test we're doing down below. Yeah, to get the salt mines deeper, to get more testing spheres in. Yeah, that's it. Just ignore that.
So it seems like they very much intentionally had one voice actor play Cave Johnson and a different voice actor pretend to be Cave Johnson by the sounds of it. Now remember, portals are not as useful as you might think, in the fact that they only work on walls painted with white paint from moon dust, and any other surface simply cannot be Portal 2. What I don't want to see potentially is that the head crabs, the aliens, or any other alien species in the Portal, in the Half-Life universe, attack us, and then the game becomes very centered around that idea of playing a game that isn't so much a Portal game and is much more just a a Half-Life game with a portal gun. Like, I'm very, very happy to have the thought that the Half-Life and Portal universes can be in the same universe, but the portal gun will never end up in the hands of Half-Life characters, and the gravity guns and other weapons will not end up in the hands of Chell, which I suppose you still would want to play as Chell. Or they need to break with tradition and just have the main character have an actual personality and actually talk. And I think that probably is the direction they would need to take both Half-Life 3 and Portal 3, is just have characters that talk. Take note here that Cave Johnson looks much older. And here's some talks of like OSHA inspectors and FEMA and ATF. I don't think FEMA was introduced until like 1980 something, probably somewhere around 88. I don't think it was an organization that even existed before then. Here we can see gas as a indicator of where to go. Seriously?
Don't mind all this too. We just had earthquakes. Lots of earthquakes. Yeah, you get lots of those here in Michigan.
Was it even in Michigan? So now you see there's a projector, and there's a computer, and a TV on the desk, telephones on the desk, no longer typewriters. This section was blocked earlier, where this section is now blocked. It's also kind of ridiculous. You could probably pretty easily just smash your way through anything. Nice that you can see the portals through the walls. For a game like this, that might be very important, where in Portal 1 and 2 that might not be so much of an issue.
These earthquakes even shook up time a bit. Some stuff from the future got here. Yeah, that's how it's here. Don't worry, it's still 1952. Adlai Stevenson is still president. Alright, so, the earthquakes. Kinda did some redecorating in here. Destroy the door too. You'll have to find another way out.
I don't believe there was ever actually a president in the real world named Adlai Stevenson. But I don't hate the idea that this universe is fairly different and disconnected. And the bathroom's boarded up. And that's not opening. And let's see. And you can see these portals fairly far away. That might be kind of a great groundbreaking improvement technologically speaking, and something that would just be completely overlooked.
But there's gotta be something you can use to launch yourself over the door. There has to be another way out.
So we're going out through there. One of the things that Portal did really, really well, Portal 1 did really, really well, was to establish a linear progressive tutorial where they make sure you know how to do everything before you go to the next section of the story. In this case, you kind of don't need that because everybody who's playing this almost certainly has played Portal 1 and Portal 2, and doesn't seem like they're really delivering that either. Are these guys just never going to have bullets? Nope. Can I not pick these guys up? What does that say? Do not tip over. So that one didn't shoot, but the other two would have shot. Let's activate this. I've got some bouncy gel, which that means I'm shooting the bouncy gel out in the wrong direction. Let's get some more bouncy gel. And then have we bounced enough gel at this point? Blue is actually the bouncy gel. Orange is the acceleration gel. So not really sure what's supposed to be going on here.
I know things might look different than what you're used to, but while you were spending that little time sleeping, we had some Aperture Science nanomachines come in and build all this stuff. Yeah, that's it. They're quick little guys, faster than any science guy I got.
So you can see the water is a little bit higher now, and they've flooded these bathyspheres. Although some of this stuff is still in the same place. So the funnier twist to this, the subvert your expectations, would be not to go surprise actually this is in the future. It would be much more funny to say at the end of the game, actually no, this is still 1952 and we just built two exact clones of the exact same buildings, and then you pretended like you went to sleep for a long time, but really it was only for a second, and then we moved you from one chamber to another chamber and made you think you were in the future as some kind of like psychological experiment. I also assume if it's dark, we're not going to want to really go in those locations. I kind of feel like there's not going to be a ton of little Easter egg secret places in this game. It did say it had like 22 puzzles, but we may very well have solved 2 puzzles already out of the 22. And in all fairness, Portal 1 is really only about 15 puzzles or so, but they're very long, and then you get into a story mode that
totally, completely new. Get through it and head to the first testing sphere. I'll let you know more there.
Yeah, there's lost my train of thought there.
Now, I just want to make sure you know something before you go any further. We have these new inventions called emancipation grids in place to prevent objects from moving around to other tests. Now, some guy decided that it would be a good idea to make ones that prevent people from going through, and installed one where people needed to go through.
So, new kinds of grids. Oops. Hopefully that's would checkpoint us, or that would be incredibly frustrating.
I just want to make sure you know something before you go any further. We have these new inventions called emancipation grids in place to prevent objects from moving around to other tests. Now, some guy decided that it would be a good idea to make ones that prevent people from going through, and installed one where people needed to go through.
Yeah, I could imagine that this game could be fairly short. And at the end of the day, it is a free community mod. It can't be as long or as good as what you'd expect from Valve, who had all the money and all the time in the world. On the other hand, you can look at games like the Talos Principle, and that was a smaller company making the Talos Principle, and it still managed to make plenty of puzzles and a decent story that wasn't particularly amazing. Like, it probably would behoove Valve a lot better if they took a team every year of interns and just told them, why don't you make a dozen levels for Portal or a dozen levels for any of our games and write a generic story that doesn't really matter about some generic character that's not the main people in the story, something that doesn't affect the universe or the world, and let's just have the interns put something out like that. Because then there'd be at least some game and something you could put your name on. That would definitely be my concern if I was to ever, say, work for Valve as a programmer, is that it might be a very good paycheck, but you wouldn't have anything to put on your resume after potential decades of working there. You could say you're doing a lot of things, but you'd have very little to show. This might be the station that Chell's mother sat at.
If you turn the power off, you can easily turn it back on. That switch isn't like the rest of them. The others trip a circuit breaker that causes an entire part of the facility's power grid to blow up. So remember, the one in here is good. All others, bad.
Interesting. It almost feels like that's gonna be.
These switches were designed for two people. Maybe your new test can help.
You can definitely tell that there's some security measures that have been designed here. Let's see. Bit of a visual glitch there. So, the switch is not working, though. X button, not doing anything. Probably because there's no power on. Okay. So then we've got to turn the power back on.
You can always turn the power on or off again.
They're kind of feeding you the answer to this puzzle because they don't want you to get lost early on. Okay. No real reason why this wall would work, but whatever. So yeah, potential deadly switches all over the place. We're opening a giant seal. You might have a very different experience in this game if there isn't an actual antagonist. It almost wouldn't feel like a Portal game though at that point if there isn't some kind of evil antagonist trying to kill you or manipulate you or trick you. There's a way through. And we'll get on the other side. Okay. I'm just gonna go a little bit further until we get to like a load section, I think, and then we'll call this an episode. And at this rate, it feels like we probably are only gonna have 3 or 4 episodes. And we probably are going to have just a slight retelling of very similar stories that we've seen before. It would be interesting if there actually wasn't a duplicitous person in this game, in the fan-made game, and there was like a helpful robot that actually was just a helpful robot, although that is also the general idea that is at least initially shown to you for Portal 2. And then you get betrayed. What you really would need is for there to be a human bad guy and a good robot character, and you play as either the human bad guy or the robot character or both. I have no idea where I'm supposed to be going though. Like, by all sights, it should be something around here. I think. Yeah, I don't think you're supposed to go anywhere over there. Or it's supposed to be up through that area. Which I don't think there's enough bounce gel to guarantee that you could get up to that. There's something over in this area. Wow. That's a lot more complicated than I was expecting.
The new testing track is just through here.
So we might have a lot more of a find the hidden object experience compared to Portal 1 and Portal 2. Which that might work as an idea. Let's see. Go through here. You have a bird flying.
Oh, that's meant to happen. Just to test your reflexes, you know, after your short sleep.
The voice actor that's doing the fake Cave Johnson voice here sounds somewhat familiar. He sounds like a YouTuber. I'm not sure I could name the YouTuber though. Let's go ahead and make a new save file, although it does seem like the game itself has been making its own save files. Alright, well, that's the first hour of Portal Stories Mel. It is very, very much in line with just redoing the events of Portal 2, where there's kind of no way to get into a Portal game other than the events of Portal 1 and Portal 2, unless you're just going to have Black Mesa agents know exactly what's going on and be sent in to infiltrate it. That's probably a great idea if you're going to make a Portal 3, is Chell contacts Black Mesa, and Black Mesa actually turns out to be good guys and comes and tries to infiltrate it and take on GLaDOS. And then you actually get to play as a competent agent who really knows what they're doing with the portal gun and how to take on AI. And then you get into a more modern version of Aperture Science, Aperture Laboratories, and there are just new turrets and new robots to take on. And at a certain point, you might turn the game into a bit more of a first-person shooter at that point, but first-person shooting done really, really well with portaling would be fairly interesting. But then it wouldn't be a puzzle game, so maybe you go 50-50. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.